not sitting at a desk. I mean, you're doing something different every day. You know, you're up, you're moving around, you're being creative. And yesterday is different than today, and then the actual end product.
Welcome to the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk Podcast, a regular discussion with building industry professionals. This is Senior Editor Patrick McComb. Today I'm joined by Remodeler, Amy Ecklund. You can find the Fine Homebuilding Pro Talk Podcast and the original Fine Homebuilding Podcast at finehomebuilding.com/podcast. You can ask questions and leave feedback there too. Amy, thank you very much for being on the show. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you, Patrick. It's great to be here.
Can you please tell me about your remodeling business? I did a little research on your website, but I'd love to hear it from you.
Sure. Well, we're based out of Seattle, Washington. The name of the company is AmyWorks. We started 12 years ago as a handyman services business, or it was me and my Subaru and my tools. And today we are focusing mostly on residential remodels, kitchens, bathrooms, basements, getting into the DADU market. And
for folks who don't know, can you please tell them what that is?
DADU is detached accessory dwelling unit. So it's the little mother-in-law building that sits out in your backyard.
And Seattle's been very progressive with this in regard to adopting them, right?
We have, actually. They now have pre-approved plans that you can choose from, 10 different ones, so you don't have to actually go through the entire review process, permitting process. It's an over-the-counter permit.
And have you been getting a lot of calls to build these with the changes in the rules?
We've gotten a few. We're actually working on one right now. We're about halfway through, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun. The permitting was so easy. It was amazing.
And I think it's fair to say that that's not always the case in crowded places like Seattle, right?
Oh, no. Apparently, Seattle is known to have some of the most difficult permitting processes. But they're trying. They're trying.
So how many people are on your team?
There's 9 of us right now.
And how are things? You got enough work to do?
We do. We're doing really well. We had a 43% growth last year, which was amazing, and hoping to do pretty much the same thing this year.
Are you thinking that was because of the pandemic-related changes people have been making, we've been hearing about?
Oh, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, where people are staying in their homes and working remotely and needing to figure out some different space dynamics inside the house. So, or they just can't stand that 1970 bathroom anymore.
Right. So how did you become a remodeler? Did you have people growing up who influenced you to do this work?
Well, kind of. It was actually kind of a fluke. My dad was a jack of all trades. So, and he was able to do everything, plumbing, electrical. I mean, he did it well. He was very much a perfectionist. And so we lived in a house that had 4 stories. So he needed somebody to run down to the basement and get the tools. So that was me. So I learned to do things, while I was helping him as well. But I actually had my education is a bachelor's degree in science. I worked as a chemist for about 14 years and decided that I didn't want to do it anymore, and decided I wanted to go into business for myself. And having never run a business of any kind, I started selling a line of hand tools that were designed for women by women. And they were sold at home parties. And so I would go to these home parties to sell these tools, and at the same time teaching women how to, change their light switch or to fix a leaky pipe. And then they would ask me if I could come to their house and fix this or fix that. And it's like, sure, okay, I will. And I did. I started doing that, and then realized that, hey, this would be kind of a great gig because I love doing it. Mm-hmm. And I looked into what it would take to be licensed in the state of Washington. It doesn't take a whole lot. And while I was doing my due diligence, I stumbled across a handyman services franchise. And I spoke with that was based, their corporate office is based here just outside of Seattle. And I spoke with the CEO, and he was very interested in having a woman franchise owner. So we struck up a deal. And I had a franchise, which was mostly just me and a van and a territory. I did that for a couple of years, learning business stuff that I'd never been involved with, and really enjoyed the work and really enjoyed the customers, but I didn't like the franchise model.
Mm-hmm.
So I got out of that and then went to work for a real estate developer who was converting apartments into condos. Did that for about a year and a half until the economy tanked in 2009. Found myself unemployed, and it's like, okay, now what am I going to do? So that's when I started AmyWorks, with me and my Subaru. And 9 months later, I hired my first employee.
That's fantastic. So when you were back helping your dad, did you enjoy doing it then, or was it drudgery like most teenagers feel when they're asked to help with home projects?
No, I liked doing it.
Yeah.
It was fun. I liked working with my hands and that end product. And
So what
it
made
was.
you want to be a chemist then, if you had this interest in home work, home stuff?
Well, I was never told that it was a viable option for a career. Right. That's and
Right.
that's one of the problems that's one of the problems we're dealing with now with the workforce is kids aren't told that this is a very viable career and you can make a lot of money at it. It's like, no, you need to go to college. It's like, that's not necessarily true for everybody.
Right. Did your was your dad a professional handyman, or was he just around your own house?
He was a union plumber.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
I,
you were hearing from him too. Don't enter the trades, right?
yeah, well, he never really pushed me to for any kind of career. Actually, he wanted my brother to go into air conditioning and refrigeration, but he went into landscape architecture.
Mm-hmm.
So
So you do kitchens and baths, home repair. Do you have a certain sweet spot for the kind of projects that work for your company?
we'd love to do whole kitchen remodels where you take it down to the studs and start all over again. Those are great. Same with bathrooms. We do subcontract out a lot of the work. The mechanical trades, and then my crew goes into the beginning, does all the demo, the framing and everything, and then we get the trades that come in, and then we go do the pretty finish work of putting cabinets in and things like that.
Sure. What have been the biggest joys of owning your own business? What do you really like about it? And then I'm going to ask you, what could you do without?
Probably what I really like is one, being my own boss. Not having to ask anybody to take time off. That's always a plus. And that freedom. I love the fact that we are providing a service to our customers. Our customers love us. We've got a really good reputation out here in Seattle, and I love providing that. Since oftentimes general contractors have such a bad reputation, I love going in and setting that reputation aside with clients when they're done with the project, saying that it was really great.
Even the best contractor or client relationships have their rocky periods, right? Or difficult decisions need to be made. How do you feel like you have? How do you get through those? What's the best way to deal with folks who are unhappy for one reason or another?
I put myself in their shoes. I actually tell the client at the pre-start meeting or when we're building this relationship that there will be a point in the remodeling process that they're not going to like us very much and we're not going to like them very much.
Mm-hmm. Especially on a large project. I mean,
right.
It's a very stressful time for everybody.
It is, and it's almost inevitable. It's like we are in their home for this extended period of time, and it's like they just want us to leave, and we just want to go. And then I let them know that, and it's like it's an inevitable phase of the whole process, and getting through it, I just put myself in their place. If I had these people in my house for this long, how would I be? And just trying to be very understanding with them, and just give them what they want.
So what about, what are some, you mentioned that Being your own boss is great, but I think a lot of business owners, you spend a lot more hours than in a 9 to 5 job in many cases, right? I bet you do. Is that put a stress on your life, having to run a small business?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it does. Yeah, and right now at this point, I'm pretty fortunate to have a great crew where I've got a great project manager, office manager, estimator, where I have stepped away from a lot of the day to day workings of the business. So I'm actually able to have a lot more flexibility and freedom in my time. But there were those times where you're working until 11 o'clock at night. You're working on the weekends. You're always thinking about it. And if I didn't love it, I would have gone and found something else to do. But I love it.
How do you find those good people? I think folks listening will be like, "Wow, how do you find a good team?"
I've been really fortunate that these people have come to me. They've found AmyWorks and have looked me up, wanting to come and work since we're woman owned business. I do hire men, but we have more women than we do have men working on the team, and they just find me by reputation.
That's really speaks highly of what you're doing as a business owner. You should be proud.
Thanks.
So you mentioned the good things. What about the bad things? What would you like to be able to not have to do that's part of your day to day?
Oh, well, sometimes the employee issues, that you just don't.
Managing people, yeah.
Yeah, managing people sometimes can be pretty taxing.
I won't ask you what they do that bugs you, but I can guess.
They may listen.
2010, when you started your business, or maybe it was 2009, forgive me. Can you refresh my memory?
2010.
That was really not a good time to be starting a business. I think you'd agree. What the heck made you want to do it then? I mean, you said you were out of work, but, it's a big leap.
It is a big leap. Well, I didn't want to go back to work in the lab. And I had people that were contacting me to come and do work for them. And I had learned enough running my franchise that I thought I would be able to, conjure up some clients and get them to, start calling me. I joined a networking group, and I was in control of it at that time, right? Instead of trying to find a job, looking on Craigslist or wherever, this I had control over it.
Like most new contractors, I'm guessing you had to take a whole mess of work, some of which you probably liked, and some you didn't. Did you suddenly find yourself with a niche, or did it take a while to figure out what you wanted to do?
No, I was pretty fortunate to have that niche starting out at the handyman services. It was like, if I knew how to do it, I would do it. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't know how to do it, I would just say, I'm sorry, I don't know how. Or if it were just, in over my head and I can only think of one project that I started and I just ended up telling them, I can't do this.
Oh, do tell.
Well, it was kind of crazy. They were wanting to put the house on the market, and it was an older home, and he was wanting to do everything as cheaply as he could.
I hear the bells are going off in my head already.
Right. And he had a rotted sill plate under the house that he wanted me to replace. And, just climbing in there, and I started working on it, and I got to the point where I just looked at it and was like, this is beyond my skill set. I just can't do it.
And it's impossible to charge enough money for that kind of stuff, right? Oh my gosh. That's one thing people say about the handyman model is it's tough to, people are shocked when they know what stuff has to cost to pay for your time and running a business and the inefficiency of going from job to job. Did you have to have difficult conversations with people about what stuff cost?
Oh, yeah, all the time. I mean, we had customers that would call and ask, it's only going to take, an hour was like, okay.
Right.
Right. And then, just our hourly rate was more than people would pay. That, they would pay 20 or $25 an hour. Well, when you really do the numbers, then, we're making less than minimum wage. It's like, no,
Yeah.
that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Right.
The successful remodelers I know at one point realized that wearing a tool belt was probably not the best use of their time, and they either gradually or quickly transitioned to running the business with less time in the field. You mentioned that you've gotten there. Was there like a moment in time when you said, I really need to get better systems, and what perpetuated that change?
Realizing that I needed more time to actually be running the business, and it wasn't doing us any good to have me out in the field. And so there wasn't any particular time. I probably carried my tools around in the back of my car for a year before I ever got to the
Before
point
you
where
were
it's
willing
like,
to take them out of there, right?
yeah, I was like, okay, I can take them out now. Yeah.
Do you have any experience you'd like to share when it became clear that, you need to either be a business owner or work as a carpenter?
Huh. I think the more knowledgeable I became about what I should be looking at as far as what a healthy business is, and being more proactive on how I'm running my business, and that, of course, required more time. So in order to have a healthy business, to be making money, I need to be doing these types of things instead of just letting it run on its own and then doing a review and looking, it's like, oh crap, we didn't make any money and we're really tight. So something's got to change.
How do you market your services? You say you have a pretty good client base, and you get referrals, I'm sure, that way. But are there other things you do? Do you make your business visible to your market in Seattle?
We've got a pretty good presence on social media, Facebook. We've got a website, Instagram.
Do you have a dedicated staffer to do that, or is that responsibility shared?
No, I've got one person that kind of works on it. It's not their main, or it's not their only responsibility, but they do a lot of the work on it. And that's relatively new that I've had somebody assigned to it, and it's made such a huge difference. Huge difference.
How so?
Just the numbers of followers that we're having. And, we can definitely tell with SEO. And now I'm working on, I have a podcast as well. And so I'm working on getting that going.
I listened to one. I found it very good. In fact, I was a little intimidated to have you on the show because it's obvious you're a better podcast host than I am. So
I don't know about that.
Yeah, it's really good. Do you want to, you have to tell folks all about it. So how can they listen? What's it called?
Oh, okay. It's called Let's Talk Home Repair. It's my friend Alicia and I. Alicia's homeowner. I come in as the general contractor, and we just talk about home repairs, what people run into as far as problems that they have, tools that they may need, tricks when they're hiring a general contractor, doing remodeling stuff. We talk about this last one, I think, was Alicia had frozen pipes over the holidays and what she did and didn't do, and doing maintenance and stuff like that. So it's fun, and her and I have a good bantering back and forth. So there's a little bit of humor in there.
Well, I enjoyed it. I'm going to listen to more. It was good.
Thank you.
Folks who listen to the Fine Homebuilding podcast and this podcast, I'm sure would like it.
Well, I hope they listen.
So has your marketing strategy changed as your business has matured? I mean, obviously you said you have a social media presence now, and you have the podcast for that to generate interest in your business. Obviously you weren't doing those things when you started out, but what made you see the value in doing that?
Everybody's saying that you're supposed to do it, pretty much. I've been really fortunate since I started the business. I've been really fortunate and not had to do a whole lot of formal marketing. and I think a lot of it has to do with a woman-owned business in a male-dominated industry. And we get calls on a regular basis that people are calling us just because we are a woman-owned business.
And you do a good job. I think you should add, right? It doesn't matter if you can't do the work and do a good job.
Right.
Have your clients been understanding of the challenges contractors have faced because of the pandemic?
They have.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Very understanding.
Have you had to change how you do things? Like, I bet job site meetings are different now.
They were for a while. We've gotten, well, it was bad and then it got better. And now it's kind of midway in between now, where we're doing more Zoom calls for, client or for project status meetings and things like that, where, the governor is not quite as mandating that the construction industry needs to do it in a certain way. We need to have, a wash bucket there. There was a whole bunch of mandates that we had to do at the beginning of the pandemic. And those have, relaxed a little bit. However, we still are requiring everybody to mask up. We had a COVID incident outbreak last week with my crew. So I had 3 people out with it. So that was kind of, that was hard. And it's like, all right, everybody mask up.
Yeah. I've heard of a number of contractors recently that have not had problems prior having, infections amongst their staff.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you're doing fewer Zoom meetings. Do you see those getting greater in frequency with, the way the situation is now, or are people just being safe other ways with distancing and masking?
I think a little bit of both. I like doing the Zoom meetings sometimes because it's a time saver.
Oh yeah, right? Your traffic is legendary.
It is. So yeah, there's that. I also do sometimes do like a client introduction screening Zoom meeting as well, so that we're not having to do that face to face kind of thing. And for me, it's kind of a comfort level, keeping a hand on the pulse of the COVID issue and what our numbers are. And then other people, and then the client's comfort level, do they have small children in the house, or, are they, an elderly couple, and just taking into consideration all of that stuff, and, just being very aware.
Have you had trouble getting stuff, and how much and what?
Cabinets and appliances have been our issues, where, cabinets are like 18 weeks out and appliances are months. And,
but how do you run it? You just have to tell clients that. And I guess you don't even start until you have cabinets, right?
Pretty much. Yeah. It's like, we're not going to start until the cabinets are here. And they know that right at the very beginning, because we talked to them about that.
It's funny. One of the regular podcast listeners wrote in with what I thought was a really good question. I'm going to ask you. So, have you changed like the normal construction sequencing to deal with slowdowns of stuff? Like, he made the point is you can't measure for countertops until your cabinets are in, but that might take another 8 or 10 weeks. What are you doing to make people's lives less tumultuous when their kitchen is torn apart, when you're having to wait for months for things to arrive?
Well, we wouldn't start a kitchen remodel if we're waiting for cabinets. That would be, we would make sure that everything is on site, because even a confirmed delivery date is not
right.
A confirmed delivery date, right? It's like you could have the entire kitchen done, but we have to wait 3 more months for the appliances to show up. So we wait to schedule the job, to schedule the start of the job, so that before we have to have everything there. Mm.
Has there been other stuff besides the appliances and cabinets that you've had trouble getting?
Glass, like shower door glass.
Really?
Yeah, that's been a weird one too.
Like stuff that's out of the ordinary, or just normal clear glass, tempered glass?
Well, we do custom shower doors for bathrooms and things like that. So the panel. So whatever it is they need to get those things done, it's a backlog. They're waiting.
Wow. Did you ever imagine in America that we would have trouble getting like shower doors and glass? And I've heard electrical meter sockets is something that's been in especially short supply.
Oh yeah. No, I've never thought.
I think you'd agree that construction sites can be a hostile, toxic place for women, minorities, and LGBT people. What would you say to the folks who are considering trade work or starting construction or subcontracting business who are from these groups that have been put aside in the construction business?
To be very aware that yes, it is possible that you're going to run into that stuff. Some of the guys out in the field it's almost like they're from the 1950s and don't realize what they're doing. And we have to be more vocal about it. We have to say something that it's going out we've run into it only a couple of times as a woman-owned business. One recently where we had a property management person that I guess he was a supervisor and superintendent, and he just did not take us seriously when we were telling him that this roof was leaking. This $1 million townhome that we're renovating and we're doing, $500,000 worth of work. We're pulling down drywall and there's, active leaks, water. And we're saying the roof needs to be replaced. And he comes in and inspects it and he says, no, it doesn't. It doesn't. And we're just flabbergasted that he's not taking this seriously. It's like,
that just seems someone who is clearly incompetent, right? I mean,
oh, yeah.
So how can folks on job sites and in the broader industry make residential construction more inclusive?
That's hard. I think I'm working on workforce development with our local building association and the state association as well. We're really pushing to do workforce development, providing classes, certified curriculum to get people that are in the non-traditional roles. So we're marketing to women, we're marketing to people of color to come and take this class. And then we've got general contractors that are either sponsoring them through the program, so they're actually an employee already, or when they get through the program, then they have an employer once they're done.
What are you teaching these folks, Amy?
It's a residential construction program, and it's a certified curriculum through, I think it's HBI. I should really look that up, but the state association is backing us on that. And we've had the very first class was full, second class was full. We're looking to put in a journey level class as well.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really hoping to get it to grow.
Are these folks who are transitioning from other careers, or are they young people, or both?
Both. I actually hired one. She had a master's degree in social work, and she was a counselor, and she gave that up to come to work for me and do this program.
I think a lot of folks who lack a college degree who find themselves in construction would be surprised that folks who have a college degree and leave their chosen careers to join the construction business. What was the appeal? I mean, what is the appeal? Do you know?
Not sitting at a desk. I mean, you're doing something different every day. You're up, you're moving around, you're being creative. And yesterday is different than today. And then the actual end product you get to see is so amazing.
I get it. I totally get it. So this is my favorite part of the show. Can you please tell me about your own house? Do you own or rent?
Both. I own a house, but it is a rental. And I have completely renovated that. And during the very beginning of COVID, I spent
was this furious remodeling like so many of us did just to occupy ourselves? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Well, I had tenants in there for 10 years. And there was some original, the house was built in 77. So it was all original. And the tenants moved out. It's like, all right, it's time to take it down to, everything. So I spent 4 months doing that. And then the house that I live in is a rental that I don't do a whole lot on.
I don't blame you there. But so the house that you recently renovated, what is its architectural style and what did you do to it and how was it built? Was it good?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was one of those split level, it's in a housing development. Mm-hmm. So it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. And I put brand new kitchen, brand new bathrooms, flooring throughout, all new doors, painted throughout. Had already replaced all of the siding with hardy plank and a new roof. And so it's whole thing. Brand new.
That sounds pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, it was.
Did you enjoy that process or was it stressful? I mean, like you have a rental, so it's automatically stressful because it's not making you money while it's not rented.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to a point, maybe the first couple of months was great. And then, I just want to be done. So want to be done.
Do you think that informs your interactions with clients? I bet it does, right? It's just like, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like, yeah.
So are there any things that you would change about it now after you've finished redoing it or any decisions you would not make?
No, I would definitely do it all over again. It all needed to be done. So I think it definitely helped with getting it rented out again.
Yeah. Yeah. People have to like your house or that's a non-starter.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you. Is there anything you want to tell or ask our listeners before we go?
No, not that I can think of. It's been great. Thank you so much for having me on.
What's the company website and the name of the podcast again so listeners can check you out?
Okay. Website is AmyWorks.com. And our... Go ahead.
Please.
The podcast is Let's Talk Home Repair.
And the Instagram and Facebook handles?
Facebook is AmyWorks Seattle, and I believe that's the same for Instagram.
Super. Well, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks to Amy for joining us, and thanks to all of you for listening. Please remember to send us your comments, questions, and suggestions to fhbpodcast@taunton.com. And please comment, or review us. However you're listening, it helps other folks find our podcast. Stay safe, everybody. Keep craft alive. Happy building. Thanks very much, Amy.
Thank you, Patrick.